Gasparo da Sal, 1585.
Yeah. If I want to design my own instruments, I've got to figure out how people did it and how did they do that. There's no record because it was just, they could just say, oh, you do it like this, you do this, and then you do this, and you do that with a ruler and thumb. It was much easier to explain to someone and show than it is to write down. It's just like a way of looking at it. I don't know if this was the way they made it, but I just look for relationships and compare different instruments and see if they have the same relationships.
It's all connected.
Yeah.
It's all connected,
yeah.
Definitely.
See if we can hunt down this instrument.
Yes. Okay, welcome back to Chain of Sounds, and here's the bass we were looking for. This is magic, nothing but pure magic. What are we looking at?
It's a very old, valuable Brescian bass that is being played at the moment in Gothenburg Orchestra. It's a Gothenburg Opera Orchestra. It's been here for about 12 years. We're very lucky and honored to be able to work with it.
And this bass is played?
Yes.
More or less weekly at least?
Daily, I would say.
Daily?
Yeah. They're quite busy. They have quite a busy schedule there. And it's very old and fragile. And you can see it's like eggshell thin. If you look through the F-holes, how thin it is.
The top is...
Yeah, it's incredibly thin, and it's obviously been through many adventures in its life. The challenge is we have to keep it playable. So I've done some restoration work on it in two sections. When I did it the first time a couple of years ago, we opened it up the first time. Then I did the drawing, which we talked about last time. And we, at that time, there was like a section here which we decided to leave because there were patches here. And I took away like straps here, which were they were just kind of at odds with the way the instrument was moving at that point. So we took the straps away and put in diamond cleats and fixed all the cleats up here. But there was like large patches here.
Yeah.
And we thought, well, let's just leave those for the moment. I don't see a problem. But when the instrument was back together and it was played and it was vibrating, it was sounding great. After some time, a new crack came. Here, there's a inlay patch that's gone all the way through the top here, and adjacent to that there was a crack. So let's like open it up again and revisit this area. And it turned out that when I removed the patches, there was like quite a lot of empty space, and I thought, well, it's just not cohesive with how we've done the rest of the top. But what I did, because the patches were adjacent, they were adjacent to this one, with a grain line running parallel, and on both sides, and that meant that there was I have to retouch there a little bit, but this crack opened up there. And so what I did was I took away those patches and then I laid in a smaller patch in the same way I would do a bass bar, a crack on a sound post patch rather, the same way I do a sound post patch, and laid so a smaller patch over there and some more patches over here, because it was very, very thin here. But
and you can tell.
Yeah. So
it's so thin.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
So when it's played, it has. I could guess it's a very deep, dark response
Yeah,
on a top like this.
Yeah, it vibrates. It's an incredible. It engages the whole room. It's like if you think of like the opera. So you've got the orchestra in the back, and then you've got the singers and the whole stage and everything that goes. And this kind of underpins the whole lot. It's
like this instrument really owns the orchestra at that point.
Yeah.
Do we know how many like Brescian instruments there are that are played?
I mean,
approximately.
Yeah, I can't give a number on that. There are obviously people who know more about that, but I can say that in our area, there's a similar bass in Stockholm, and there's another similar bass in Oslo.
Yeah.
So that's.
And we will get back to that.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
So those two instruments, I'm very keen to have a look at, because since I've got to know this one so well, if I can look at those with, I can see what's similar and what's different.
By using dendrochronology, you can decide basically any instrument's year, and this is from 1578. That's
the newest tree ring that they have measured on this on the wood, and there's like 3 pieces here. It's not like, it doesn't have a center line in that way.
No, it's easier to see from the inside, of course. But you put this together just the other day.
Yeah, last week. So I've had it's been open for a while, and I fixed all the patches, and then I took. I mean, normally finish, glue the base back together. Let's get it go. But I spent like a few days just like feeling, checking for tiny cracks, making sure that everything was sealed and secure.
Yeah. What about the tuners and I mean, we know that extensions are a modern attribute, but
yeah, I mean, this is not original, and there's very few bass scrolls that are, because it sticks out, it gets damaged. Also, the construction the construction in here is different. It didn't the core. It's not constructed like Cremonese instruments with the form and the blocks. These blocks were probably, they looked like they were added in afterwards. Mm-hmm. They, not sure they were original linings. They are, of course, they're linings now. It's not certain that they'd had linings. It's not certain that it had a bass bar. It might have just had a thicker area over here. Yeah, okay. We don't know what the original thickness would be.
No.
I mean, it's very thin now. But
and the double purfling, is that significant for Brescian basses?
It's quite fairly typical, but there's no purfling on the back.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and as you can see, this has all been rebuilt.
Yes.
Yeah. It's not.
And for those who wonder what purfling is and what function it has,
it's like partly it partly keeps the original form, shape of the instrument, so you can and it's like decorative, and it's also
very decorative.
Yeah, it's lovely, but it also helps prevent cracks. Because if a crack starts here in the end grain, without something in the way, it's just gonna continue
implode.
Yeah, because like the original, I mean, coming back to you did ask me about the scroll, and coming back to that, it would have had gut strings which are much less tension, and probably when this was built, this was before they started winding the guts. It was about 1660. 60s they started winding the gut, so the lower strings were very, very thick. There was a very big difference between the diameter of the upper string and the lower string in order to get the depth sound that you needed. Otherwise, the alternative is you need a really, really long string length to get those low tones. So this is like one of the reasons why they built such large instruments to get the good bass sound without the string being too thick.
Yeah. This mechanic, the tuners, and it looked very modern. It could look, or actually it could be very modern, but we know it isn't.
Okay, so I mean we don't have everything here. We'll get the rest of the things because they're being restored at the moment. You can see that this has been restored. This is replaced.
Yeah.
The gears are. We've also done an analysis of the metal there, and I don't have the figures in my head, but it's an old alloy that dates back. And it's got quite a lot of lead in it, which helps with the movement.
Yeah.
For example, like the brass. If you have brass with a lot of lead in it, it acts as a lubricant, and it works very well together with steel. They don't wear each other out. They're like friends. Yeah. And this scroll is possibly
And it's an extra swirl, right?
Yes, yeah. So this could have been commissioned, and by like a good. There was like several new bass scrolls made around the same time, and it's like it's very beautifully done.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
I have realized by meeting you, you have a fantastic love for double basses. Yeah. Today you can find basses that are built in the same pattern.
Yes. Yeah.
Modern basses. Yeah.
There are a lot. There are a lot of Dasalo and Maggini copies. Fent, the English bass maker, made Maggini copies, and they're quite famous. And Panormo, he also has, although it was not he didn't make like copies. He was very influenced by the Brescian basses.
Yeah. What is it with this that creates the magic?
That's hard. I mean, what I'm looking at, I'm trying to find like rather than just copying the shell, I'm trying to. When I compare the instruments, I've done it on photos, but it's difficult. I mean, obviously there's always distortion with photos, but to get to compare the outlines and try and distill the geometry behind that, that's where I want to go, and so that I understand. Okay, man, they wanted to do what they did to decide. How did they decide what the dimensions were? How did they decide where to put the corners?
Are we back to geometry there?
Yeah, and because they're quite different, and I think they had like different. They had like a kind of a language, if you like, a set of or music theory or something. And so in the way that you can write a piece of music and you can harmonize it, you can draw a bass and how do you say, okay, I've got this dimension there and this dimension there, but how do I resolve this curve, and how do I place the F holes so that it becomes a harmonious thing? And I think that they were much more aware of that in a way that we've lost because we just copy. Yeah, we're so good at copying.
And one would never make a new bass with such a thin top, right?
No, but that's another thing about which I'm going to say.
But it wasn't that from the beginning, maybe.
We don't know what it was like from the beginning. But also this wood, I mean, it's so beautiful. It's so finely grained, that it's much stronger than the wood that I built my last bass on. It's about like five times a wider grain than this, and it much softer. But it's. So even though it's so thin, it's not, and it's fragile in a way, but it's also very strong. Yeah. So yeah, it's there's a because it's aged so long. There's a practice of using torrefied wood. Guitar makers use a lot, where they bake the wood to imitate the age. So this is like naturally torrefied wood, and it has very good sound properties.
And that has become very, very popular the last 3-5 years in modern electric basses and guitars and stuff to make the necks in baked wood.
Baked wood, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's not maple. I think it's walnut.
Yeah, it's rougher, and it's certainly looks like walnut. Yes.
Yeah, and no purfling.
No purfling.
Yeah. So this is new, this part here. So there's a lot we don't know about how this shape originally was. The neck has been replaced, and this area is not original either. So, and then there's all these little.
So things like that doesn't affect the value as much as you would think.
No, I think it's just part of the history of the instrument.
Yeah, because it has to be played, and it has to be fixed.
Yeah.
And
so what you do, you leave it in a museum, and it just kind of falls apart. It needs to be played.
Yeah.
That's better. And that's just like when you work on it, you've got to always be aware that do no harm, and whatever I do, someone else can come and change it and redo it.
Yeah.
So I did quite what some might think radical,
really?
different bass bar, which is Mario Lamar, the Canadian bass maker, who does amazing instruments. He's developed this, inspired by nature, a bass bar that is, it's split. You'll see pictures of it. It's split like this, and it's like it basically distributes the forces more evenly over a wider area, so there's not too. And it helps to secure some of the cracks because it crosses the cracks. It's not going parallel. As above, so below. It's there's a lot of symbolism in it, and we could talk about how they used to, when they built ships, they travel a landscape and find the oak trees and study the way that they bent and moved, and they would draw that, and then they would say, okay, well, that piece from that tree which bends like that, we need that for this part of the ship. They use the tree's natural strengths in the construction of the ships, and this is kind of like, this is my interpretation of it. So it would be really fun to say, okay, well, I've got to get this bass bar from a tree, and it looks like that, and then I'm going to build the whole bass around that. That would be really a fun thing to do. Yeah. But it's like this bass was already the way it is, so we have so then we go backwards and reverse engineer it. So this is
wow, that's interesting.
Yeah. So this is what I'm going to do. Like what I did with this one, I drew the outline on a piece of paper, and it's always like when you do that, it's always uneven, and like the pencils are a little bit, they could be squonk, and there's like a little bit that's uneven here, and so you don't end up with a very good outline. So to clean that up, but then you can like go over it freehand, and that's even worse. So I put a tracing paper over that, and then I have the ship's curves, and so I find. So for each section of curve here, I find the corresponding. This is when they used to plan their ships.
Okay.
They had. I can show you them, and you can draw a very good, clear line. Okay. And that's how I did the drawing for that. The man who's restoring the mechanics here.
Yeah.
He's also been working with ships, and he's worked with Vasaskeppet, and
the Regal Vasa, yes.
Yeah, and figured out how all the the rigging was he's an expert in ropes as well. And he worked together with a woman from Germany who she did the drawings, and she used these. These are hers, which I've been able to borrow. So these are ship's curves. So there's like a whole set. I think it's like 144 or something. There's like, so you've got all the curves that you could wish for. People don't use them anymore because we've got the digital tools. So you can't even buy them. You would have to like get the templates and get them printed out for you, or laser cut. So, and these are made of wood. They're lovely. They're beautiful, and you can see her marks, the little pencil marks. Where it's okay that this curve comes from that point to that point. But they're very natural curves because it's like based on the clothoid spiral, which is Euler spiral is another name for it. It's like if you think about a circle, that's a radius and it's constant. And then if you think about a curve, anything else, the radius changes. And if you think about a radius that changes in the most even way possible, that's a clothoid spiral, a clothoid curve. And that, so yeah, they're also like natural. They're used in railway construction, because if you've got a train traveling along one radius and then you abruptly change to another radius, you're going to get a very jerky thing. Yeah. So it's got to move very smoothly. So it's the same engineering.
Okay. Yeah.
Things there.
So there is a close relation with base building and railways.
Railways and ships and
ships and everything.
Yeah. I like how the conversation goes.
So with that said, we will say bye-bye from Elinore's atelier for this time, and I will speak in that camera. Okay. See you soon, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel.